Welcome back to the show, everybody. This is the upper tier, and this is your Monday mashup. Just me this week flying solo. Darren's a little busy today. He's going off to meet Kurt Angle, the man who won an Olympic gold medal with a broken freaking neck. Should be a great night over there with Kurt Angle in the Liberty Hall for Inside the Ropes. So I'm holding down the fort tonight. So this is your Monday mashup. We've got a number of interesting hot topics to go through. And on top of that, we're going to review the results from the weekend and take a quick look, I suppose, at the two Champions League semi-finals and also the big game coming up Thursday evening, Man United versus Chelsea. Massive game in the top four race for Man United. This really will be the top four eliminator if Man United get beaten. But let's go down through the results of the weekend. We started out early with Arsenal 3, Man United 1. I think Arsenal would have been delighted with this result, especially on the back of the Chelsea one, coming out 3-1 winners. Don't know, United again seemed to look really, really flat. First 20 minutes of the second half, they came out and certainly got back into it, but just flattered to deceive. It was just a calamity at times, really, for both sides, and it just so happened that Arsenal came out on the better side of it, really. Some interesting VAR decisions as well. I was hoping to have Mark on this week, but he's not available as well to discuss some of the VAR decisions over the weekend. Certainly some interesting ones. Leicester 0, Villa 0. This is a game that shocked me. I wouldn't have thought this would have ended up a 0-0. I would have thought there would have been goals in this game. Man City 5, Watford 1. Man City putting Watford to the sword. We're basically dead and buried, going down the relegation road without a shadow of a doubt. Man City looking very strong. Jesus scoring, I think, 4 of the goals. Amazing. He gets linked with a move away from the club, talk of him moving to Arsenal, and then he puts on a show like that where he buries 4, I think. Very, very strong from him. Very, very strong from City, and helped their goal difference as well. Because who knows, it could come down to goal difference on this. You just never know. Excuse me. Norwich 0, Newcastle 3. Eddie Howe still keeping the ship going big time there. Norwich obviously again planning for life in the Championship, I would imagine, at this stage. And another game I didn't expect, the evening kickoff on Saturday, that I didn't expect to be a 0-0. I thought there'd be goals in it as well. But once again, Tottenham showing up really, really flat. And in the end, actually lucky to get out with a 0-0. Just a poor performance from them again. And then we hear today all this talk of Conte pimping himself out to PSG. This is a guy who's under contract with Tottenham for another year and a half or whatever it is, and he's offering himself up to PSG. It's absolutely scandalous what's going on there, and especially with Tottenham in a top 4 race, they could still make the Champions League and stuff like that. But I think Conte is just using Spurs as a springboard to something else. But disgusting behaviour, if you ask me. Sunday, Brighton 2, Southampton 2. Brighton were well in control of this game, and then they let it slip. A brace from James Ward-Prowse shared the spoils for Southampton. Burnley with a massive win. Burnley 1, Wolves 0. Wolves look like they've checked out for the summer. Burnley look like they're well up for this dogged relegation battle. That's 2 wins they've put up now in the last 2, which has now Everton rooted to 3rd from bottom and in the relegation zone. And if you were a betting man right now, you'd be betting more on Burnley surviving than you would on Everton. When you look at the fixtures that are coming up and stuff like that. Chelsea 1, West Ham 0. Chelsea left it late in this one. Safe to say that they laboured in this one. They looked pretty flat. Made a few changes. But West Ham had a second string out. They had rested a lot of their players. Big game coming up this week in the Europa semi-final. So Moyes wanted to rest a few players. He did bring them from the bench, and certainly when Declan Rice came on and Jared Bowen and those type of players, once they came on, West Ham looked more at it, safe to say. But Chelsea, very, very flat performance. Lucky to get away with the win. Liverpool 2, Everton 0. What can we say about this one? A tough day at the office for Liverpool. Really laboured in the first 45 minutes. Obviously, we knew what we were going to get from Everton. They were going to try and shut it down and Hope to come away with something from the game because the gulf is massive between the two clubs. But on comes Andy Robinson, crops up with a goal at the back post with a header, and then on comes Luis Diaz and tries a bicycle kick that somehow bounces and falls to Origi, and Origi gets a header under the bar. The usual type of goal for him against Everton. You couldn't write this as a script, really. But a lot of nastiness in the game and stuff like that. And, I've been quite vocal on this podcast about my disdain for Richarlison, both as a person and as a player. I just think sportsmanship and nothing comes into his world. And I don't find anything likable about him at all. And again, it was on display yesterday. Just petulant, more concerned about getting into a row and a punch up and injuring someone than wanting to play football and showing his skills and his football. So nothing likable about him, and good luck to him. So 2-0 to Liverpool. Everton drop into the bottom three. Going to have a mammoth task to try and get out of that now. And I did say in my preview that I didn't necessarily want Everton to get relegated. Because I do like the Merseyside derby. There's history there and there's lineage with it, and Everton as well. There's a lot of history with that club and a lot of success over the years, especially the two of us back in the 80s and stuff like that, battling against each other. And they do make up one half of a fabulous city, Liverpool. So let's see what happens. Let's get into some of these hot topics. Top of the list on the hot topics obviously would be Erik ten Hag appointed Man United manager. He will take over at the end of the season, succeeding Ralf Rangnick, who was the interim manager. Not sure what my thoughts on this are. He's obviously a very, very good coach. He's had success there with Ajax. Looks like he's on the cusp of winning another Dutch league with him as well. But this task at Man United is absolutely monumental. It's monstrous. And it'll be interesting to see if he's the guy who can take this on. But there's a problem at United there in terms of every level, from the board right down to the stadium. They've issues across the board, both with personnel and with backroom staff and with the stadium and with the owners. And I'm just not sure the selling that the owners did to Erik ten Hag to get him out of Ajax and into Man United. I'm not sure whether they will back up what they promised. And if they don't, United find themselves going down the loop again that they did in the past with Jose and with Louis van Gaal. And I just think it's that would be my worry in terms of Erik ten Hag going in there. Not necessarily that he has the capability to do what needs to be done at United in terms of the playing squad and the personnel and the coaching and all that kind of stuff, but it's whether he'll actually get the backing that was promised to him when he signed the contract. So that's all. But we will wait and see. This is going to be, I think, the fifth manager or the fourth or fifth manager since Alex Ferguson. And you would think at this stage they have to get this one right, especially with the emergence of teams at the moment, especially with Newcastle. Some of these teams being taken over with new owners, and they're going to pump money in during the summer and probably become very competitive. And it's going to be really difficult for the likes of Man United to get back into a top four spot if they slip out of it and they don't make it in this top four race that's going on at the moment. So that would be my fear for United and Erik ten Hag. Top four race, speaking of which, Arsenal were the big winners at the weekend, obviously. Spurs obviously dropped points. West Ham obviously dropped points. And United obviously got beaten by Arsenal and dropped points. So Arsenal have emerged out of the pack as the favourites again to take this fourth spot. But again, as we've seen with all four of these teams, they're capable of winning and they're capable of losing. So nothing will be decided, and I think it may come down to the wire. But a betting man will tell you that Arsenal have their backs up. The boys seem pumped up for it. They seemed well up the likes of Ramsdale and all. They seemed really up for this game the other day. And they look like the team that's in somewhat form and pumped up to see this out. So a betting man would say Arsenal. What's going to be interesting United with a huge game coming up on Thursday against Chelsea at Old Trafford. You would think that a draw or a loss in that game would eliminate them from the top four race. So let's see what happens. It's also been reported Thomas Tuchel as well has been dealt a blow with this Chelsea takeover being delayed over Stamford Bridge concerns. It's an article that I read the other day, and I will be discussing it on the Chelsea Roar with Ian when we do his Chelsea podcast this week. But it has emerged that in the financial makeup of the 2.5 billion, whatever the cost is for the buyout, a big portion of that is centered around the redevelopment of Stamford Bridge. And now looking at what they look like they're going to be able to do in terms of the redevelopment of Stamford Bridge, it may not be enough to substantiate the financials within the 2.5 billion, and that they may have to look to build a new stadium. Now, I know this won't sit well with Chelsea fans, because I know the history and how they feel about Stamford Bridge and stuff like that. So it's a difficult one. But that's the talk at the moment. That's causing the delay in terms of this purchase or bid getting over the line. Ultimately, I think the Bowley Group, I think they'll be the ones that'll end up buying it, and they'll figure out what needs to be done. But I know the Supporters Trust are heavily weighing towards staying at Stamford Bridge. They want Stamford Bridge kept. And I think they own a controlling stake, I think, in the pitch or something like that. So we'll see how that all comes out. Ralph Rangnick, after the Arsenal game, came out with a scathing assessment of the Man United players. And we heard then that Paul Scholes had heard from Jesse Lingard that the dressing room was absolutely toxic, in not so many words. And interesting that Paul Scholes would put that out there. Now, I suppose when you're hearing Jesse Lingard saying that it's toxic, I mean, this is a guy who was hardly played for United, albeit he wanted away in January and they wouldn't let him. So I'm sure he's a little bit bitter over that, but sure, however, he's going to be released at the end of the season anyway, and he can go to wherever he wants to go then. But yeah, apparently there's a lot of stuff going on there at the moment, and I'd say it's horrible for Ralph Rangnick. I wouldn't say he thought it was near as bad as what he's had to deal with over the last 4 or 5 months or whatever it is since he came in. But that came out the other day. Congratulations to PSG and Bayern Munich, both clinching their league titles over the weekend. Of course, no surprise. I think with Bayern Munich, it's 10 in a row or something like that now, or something they've done. So absolutely fabulous from both teams. Not unexpected. I know yesterday or last year there was a bit of a blip in the French league, but that's been corrected this year. And then the talk coming out is that Conte has spoke to PSG, excuse me, and he has offered himself to PSG. The talk is that Poch is basically gone. He's out the door. There was talk that Zidane might be interested in that job, and I would imagine if Zidane's interested in it, it would go to Zidane before it would go to Antonio Conte. There's also talk that came out as well that the owners of PSG apparently want to sell the club at the end of the season. So there could be a bit of a turmoil there that might hold off Zidane in terms of going in there until he has a clearer picture of what's going on. But inevitable, they will have a new manager of some sort coming in, because Poch is basically gone at this stage. So it'll be interesting to see how that develops. It'll also be interesting to see if they do decide to sell PSG, what will happen with the players and stuff like that. But certainly one to keep an eye on. Cristiano Ronaldo. I wanted to talk about Cristiano Ronaldo. I mean, obviously we know that he lost his baby boy there off a set of twins during the week. Very sad. And he sat out the previous game, but he played against Arsenal and he scored a goal. And he looked right on it, but didn't take the penalty. But that was his 100th goal in the Premier League, which is an absolute fabulous milestone for the lad, especially in a difficult week. It's nice to end the week with some sort of positivity, even though they didn't get the result that they wanted. But sometimes I often reflect on Cristiano Ronaldo, and I wonder if he had stayed in the Premier League, just imagine how many goals he would have scored if he hadn't have gone to Real Madrid and left Man United at that time. Unbelievable, I'd say, goal scoring record. I'd say he would have smashed all records. But congratulations to him on joining the 100 club, and he became the 33rd Premier League player to hit that milestone. So absolutely fabulous from Cristiano Ronaldo, but unfortunately didn't get the result that he wanted. Let's take a look at the Champions League. The two semi-finals are coming up on Tuesday. We have Man City versus Real Madrid. Going to be an absolute massive game. Be interesting to see. It's a weird one as well because Man City are playing on the Tuesday, and then they're playing 5:30 on the Saturday. And we're playing on the Wednesday, and then we're playing 12:30 on Saturday against Newcastle. So, and I think Klopp alluded to this, but I think the fixtures are decided because of TV rights and all that kind of stuff and broadcasting. So it's not something to lay at Man City's door, but safe to say they've a tough task ahead of them in terms of Real Madrid, who were excellent in the last round, knocked out Chelsea, who were very tough to get by, but they got by them. And I've said on many a show that that Real Madrid midfield is royalty when it comes to football, with Cruz and Modric, Casemiro, and all, just unbelievable players. And Benzema, of course, being probably the best striker on the planet at the moment. Absolutely unbelievable. And again on that game. So it'll be a tough task for Man City. A lot of people are sort of writing Real off. But I have a sneaky feeling this is going to be a repeat of the Kiev final. I think it's going to be Real Madrid versus Liverpool. And hopefully we owe them one, especially what happened with Mo Salah with Ramos during that. I think we owe them one, and I'd have no problem playing them in the final. The other semi-final comes up. It's on Wednesday, Liverpool versus Real Madrid, or Liverpool versus Villarreal at Anfield on Wednesday evening. And we'll have dropped the preview for that. You'll be able to see the preview from the Shankly sessions on the upper tier out there on YouTube. It'll be releasing tomorrow in time for the game. But I fully expect Liverpool to get through that tie. Won't be easy. We know how good Emery is. He will make it difficult, but we should get through. We should have enough for them. And then we move on to Thursday. Thursday is Man United versus Chelsea, as I said earlier. It's going to be a huge game in terms of the top four race. I think Chelsea have all but sailed third with that win against West Ham. Anything other than a win, and they would have found themselves even slipping back into a top four race. But they got the all-important win, and they've put that gap between themselves and fourth again now. So Chelsea should be safely in third. I would expect Chelsea to beat Man United on Thursday. I think Man United at the moment, they're just, even with the announcement of the manager, it hasn't really changed anything. A lot of guys that are leaving there come the end of the season that just don't really care now. Balancing that out with guys who do care and are trying their best, and then you balance that out with guys who do care but just are playing really bad at the moment. So there's a lot of conundrums there at the moment in Man United. But also with Chelsea, it should be a very competitive game because Chelsea as well are playing quite flat at the moment. So I suppose anything can happen in this, but I would expect Chelsea to run out winners. United have just been so poor the last few weeks. Just really, really poor. And I would expect Chelsea to win that. Well, this has been your Monday mashup. Sorry about it being a shortened version. The guys just weren't available this week. If you want to contact the show, it's the upper tier podcast at gmail.com. We're out on YouTube, the upper tier. So if you'd like to head over there and drop a like, a share, and subscribe, and hit that bell notification button to get notified for any new content that we drop at least on a daily basis. We're on Facebook and Instagram, the upper tier. We're out on TikTok, the upper tier podcast. We're on Twitter at the _upper_tier. And we're also on Spotify for the audio versions of the show, Google Podcasts, and Amazon Music. And we will be back to you all this week with previews, reactions, player ratings, and all that good stuff. We'll also later in the week, we'll have a Premier League preview, and we'll also have the latest episode of Beat the Bookie. Till next time, folks, a pleasure.